So this morning I want to speak about something that is really it's a technique, and it's a technique that directly connects to some of the most profound uh, non-dualist and mystical philosophy uh, and teachings. And the technique, as it is expressed by my teacher, Sri Maharaj Nisargadatta, is the technique is to bring your attention to the feeling of I am. And he recommends this throughout all of these conversations that he has with students that have been recorded as sort of the primary technique of meditation and of spiritual practice. And the other main technique that he's always pushing is inquiry, which is its own thing. But the idea is that when you're in meditation and then throughout the day, when you're not necessarily doing inquiry, which is more kind of pointed and focused, and inquiry is like I want to uncover, if these are all my beliefs and the way that I'm approaching the world, I want to figure out what's under here. It's a kind of digging and excavation. This is the more quiet, subtle inner work, being with the feeling of I am. And he said, yeah, you can add a mantra to it. Yeah, you can, add other techniques to amplify this, but ultimately this is what we're doing. I'll just share some words directly from him. He says, why not turn away from the experience to the experiencer and realize the full import of the only true statement you can make? I am. Right there's something you could do some inquiry around for yourself, like dig into that. Is that the only true statement you can make? I am. That is a truth that Nisargadatta and some of the other teachers I've worked with have come to. This is it. This is the only thing I can say for sure. I am, right here, right now. Okay. The student asks him, good question. How is it done? He says, there is no how here. Just keep in mind the feeling I am and merge in it until your mind and feeling become one. By repeated attempts, you will stumble on just the right balance of attention and affection. And your mind will be firmly established in the thought feeling, I am. Whatever you think, say, or do, this sense of immutable and affectionate being remains as the ever-present background of the mind. And so he says attention and affection, which I love, because when we do the ABCs of meditation, this little step-by-step template that I cultivated over many years of studying different traditions and seeing what worked when we sat to meditate, what helped the most. I came up with step C is connect to care. That's that affection. And that step D is direct your attention, right? And so they're both there in that formula as well as his. And in today's meditation, we contemplated what it is that we cared about here in life and kind of use that affection and the feeling state that affection can bring up. It can bring up a kind of more active feeling state, something that we can really actually turn to and notice. And really any feeling state is a kind of pathway back to this feeling of I am. Because our feeling states are happening internally. They're happening in that inner world that though I can choose to express and share with those around me, ultimately is only mine to experience. And what is the main distraction from meditation? What is the main distraction from our inner world? Is this participating in the outer world? So even the thoughts, right? The thoughts are happening inside. Also, your thoughts only you can experience, thankfully, directly. And yet, the only thoughts that are going to bring you out of meditation, the only thoughts that are going to be problematic, the vritti thoughts, the ones that are spiraling around and causing chaos or lack of harmony, the only thoughts that could be problematic are the ones that are trying to pull you back out into that outer world, or whatever version of the outer world you think you need to participate in. So being with that feeling of care is a great way to kind of wake up something that's like that are sort of inner touchstones, a sort of inner vibration, inner experience that then we turn toward and we allow ourselves to really be with. Now, I've said some version of that a million times. Here's the little bit that I'm going to add that I haven't shared before. Some of you know I adopted a dog last week, Vita, being very chill in the other room right now. And I've been thinking about this as I've been training her. Anyone who's trained a dog knows this, but I'm sure that even if you haven't, you can it'll make sense. When you want to get good behavior out of a dog, right? I don't want my dog to pee inside my house or chew on things. I do want my dog to come when I call her, to sit when I tell her to sit, right? Good behavior. The first and most important thing that you have to establish with that dog is trust. And you can't fool them. If I am anxious, she will pick up on it. If I'm inconsistent in my training, she's not gonna stick, or she's gonna be inconsistent in response. What I'm saying is the training isn't just about what I tell her, it's about how my inner state is when I'm with her. And, I just rescued this dog from a shelter. She was freaked out. She had a lot of stuff going on. And I could verbally tell her things all day long, but the only thing that really makes a difference is for me to show up in that state. And then she starts to meet me in that state. And we now have a word for how we do this socially, human to human, or human to animal, or animal to animal. And it's called co-regulating. It's now, it's a biological thing for all social animals, of which humans and dogs are. That being around a being with a particular kind of emotional and psychological and sort of inner state, their inner world, affects my inner world, right? When we're sharing this space, even virtually, we're doing this to a certain extent. But when we're in the room together, it's even more powerful. And so as I'm working with the dog, I'm reminded of this really, that while I'm with her, I might be thinking about the outer command, right? Like he says, whatever you think, say, or do, this sense of immutable and affectionate being remains ever present in the background. When I'm working with her, when I'm trying to train her, I do have words and commands and little, and this is the sign for sit, I do the things, but inside, the state that I'm in is so important. And that I can be doing in a way both of those at once. And this is what he means about kind of being in the background. That the meditator, the yogi, is always with that sense of I am. There's always a sense of that empty, still, quiet witness at the center of everything, that is me. And that the one that's doing the making the commands and saying the thing, saying the words is also present, but completely dependent on this deeper self of which I can also remain aware. I've also been working on this show and thinking about it. The same is true in performance, that my feeling state will be inevitably, it will be expressed. That the most important thing for me as a performer, got a pretty challenging scene that ends in a suicide. And whatever, and I've choreographed this whole 3-minute dance, but whatever outer gesture that I'm doing is just a gesture unless I am feeling from inside the experience. And the last example that I thought of today of in my own life where I've gotten this lesson really deeply is when I was 10, my youngest brother was born, and I babysat him constantly when I was a little girl. And I learned putting him to sleep, right? Dogs, babies, you cannot fool them. You can't fool them with your inner state. Also with enlightened people, right? They can see through any outfit that you put on top of that inner state, right? Same with babies and dogs. I remember with my little brother, I realized, like, I was a kid, I was impatient. I loved putting, I wanted him to be on in his nap time so I could just go do whatever I wanted to do as an 11 or 12-year-old. So, but the more like urgently and impatiently I wanted him to go take a nap, the longer it took to put him down. And so I remember figuring out I have to actually be calm. I can't fake I'm asleep, but like my heart rate is really high. I have to actually be genuinely calm. I have to, in this moment, actually be 1,000% okay with being right here with my baby brother. Whatever lullaby I sing, whatever book I read to him, all that really matters, I learned, was this inner state. And I started to master it and find I could put my brother to bed pretty quickly as long as I was actually calm. And so, okay, and so just to wrap this up into something that you can work with this week, and something that you can kind of play with for yourself. How, first of all, with the attention, how can you turn your attention back to the feeling state, to the inner state, to the inner, we were talking about this a lot, like a couple years ago, right before COVID actually, and we were playing around with different words for this, and one of them was vibe, or vibration, right? How can you touch into that inner vibration? And we've talked today about it being kind of emotional states. It's subtler than that, but tapping into your emotional state can be a great way to kind of access that. But what does it feel like? What are the vibrations of being alive for you here and now? And so the more we check in on that, the more we check in on that, the more we check in on it, the deeper that this technique can be effective. And the more automatic it becomes to return to that. And then here's this other thing that I would encourage you to consider and work on this week is the best way to put it is, don't lie. Don't lie to yourself or others. Let the inner state, contemplate for yourself, right? There are times when we have to when it's not appropriate to express our inner state. That's true. Or not helpful or dangerous even. And that's not exactly what I'm saying. I guess what I mean is, don't lie to yourself. Give yourself the opportunity to actually arrive into a state before you act it out, express it, fake it. Trust yourself that every single state is available to you. And this meditative state, this deepest state, the state of being in the I am, where we can witness all of life without it disturbing our peace and our wholeness. That meditative state is already yours. You already know it. And to return to it, you don't have to fake it. You don't have to manipulate. You might first admit, I'm not there, but then just go back inward and find it. It's in the layers of your being here and now. You're gonna, if you're anything like me, have to let go of some of your ideas of it, which you are holding on to from past experience or projecting into your future experience. It's here and now. And then that brings us back to this trust. I cannot force my dog to trust me. You can't force anybody to, really. Other humans might be a little more manipulable at first, but deep down, there will always be the distrust. There's always that sixth sense of, we know when something's not quite right. And the more that you come to be in that witness place, the more that you come to just really feel the very subtle experiences happening inside, the deeper and deeper you're going to trust yourself, and you're going to trust the universe, and you're going to trust the meditation practice. And from trust comes right relationship, peace, and the ability to really express our care in ways that are really aligned, really true. And yeah, and that's where we want to be. All right, that's my little talk for today. I now welcome any questions, any comments, and if you're watching the video, you can leave those below.